All right. Today, God willing, we will have a class at 3:00. God willing, there will be a class at 3:00. I had some things to do the other days. There will be a class. We're going to learn the Haftorah. Learn the Haftorah. Okay, here we go. Okay, let's refresh our memories a little bit. What are we talking about over here? This is a speech that the Luvavitcher Rebbe gave in 1991. And in it, he's explaining the future redemption and how we have to prepare for it and how God is helping us to prepare for it and how he's sending us all sorts of hints and you say encouragement to enable us to do and to understand the impossible, what we think is impossible. So first of all, just for beginners, let's begin, right? We are now, this is the first Shabbat, which comes after the Tisha B'Av, when the temple was destroyed. So the destruction of the temple, that was pretty much the lowest point in Judaism. That was, I mean, there's nothing better than the temple. If you learn about it and you realize what the temple was, it was, I mean, amazingly enough, it was something which was above politics. The Jews can be above politics. This is a miracle. There's no greater miracle than that. Eventually, they schlepped it into politics also, but the whole thing of the temple was to show that there's a creator and that people don't have to worry about themselves so much. All you have to do is just do what the creator wants, the way that he wants it, and everything will be okay. Of course, the problem is, what does the creator want and how does he want us to do it? How? So there we have leaders to do this. And especially in the first temple, they had terrible leaders. They had kings that just drew the people into the depths, misdirected everybody. And despite all this, God forgave him. We have one of the worst of the worst was Manasseh. Manasseh, he was the worst. He encouraged idolatry and licentiousness and everything, right? And I guess worse than that was also Yerovam ben Nevat. But anyway, he encouraged everything, and God forgave him. God forgave him. I mean, not bad enough. What he did to himself, he did it to the people also. Okay. Nevertheless, the temple was destroyed. First temple and the second temple. After the second temple, everybody figured finished. That's it. God gave us 2 chances. We messed them both up. So comes along the prophet Isaiah. That just last week he was fire and brimstone, right? He was, what is they call, the prophet of doom. With these fiery eyes, this. Of course, that was not Isaiah. Isaiah, in fact, came from a noble family, and Isaiah was prophesied like, what was it? How long? 68 years, I think. 68 years, 67 years. Give me a second. Prophesied, yeah, a long time. I mean, he must have been like 90-something years old when he passed away. And he didn't work. His prophecies didn't work. It says 80. Oh, wait. I'm sorry. He prophesied 86 years. 86 years of unsuccessful prophecy. 86 years he prophesied and nobody listened to him. That's a long time, 86 days, 86 hours, 86 minutes is a long time. If a normal person would give up after like a half an hour or something. Listen, Jews, stop doing sins. Where are you going? Hey, is anybody listening? Okay, give up. That's it. 86 years he prophesied. Okay, what are we going to do? Nevertheless, after all that, and like I said before, he was killed. This Manasseh guy that I talked about before, Manasseh killed him. It was his grandson. It was Isaiah's grandson. Okay. Nevertheless, after all this terrible stuff, God says he's going to redeem the Jewish people. He still loves the Jewish people. He has not in any way minimized, lessened his love for the Jews. And that's this. We're going to have 7 weeks of prophecies from Isaiah saying in different ways and from different angles the same thing, right? God will never leave the Jews. God will always love the Jews. God is going to gather the Jews together. They've got a lot of enemies. They have a lot of problems. They have a lot of, how do you say, a lot of reason to leave Judaism. They have, and I have more reason to leave them. But nevertheless, it's not going to happen. I love the Jews. They're all going to come back to God. They're all going to come back to the temple. Third temple will be built, right? They're going to, the land of Israel will be kicked. All these missionaries and all these other evil, whatever it is, will be kicked out, right? And the missionaries themselves will realize that they made a big mistake, that they've been worshiping a joke, a clown, a liar, a cheater. That's what they'll realize. They'll realize it. Why will they realize it? Because there's going to be such a revelation of good and truth. Not that God's going to come with fire and brimstone and he's going to kill everybody. No, people will be convinced on their own. They will be their own motivation. It's not that God is going to motivate them with fire and brimstone and diseases and things like that. That doesn't work. There'll be such a tremendous revelation of good and happiness in the world that it's going to be a different world. That's what it means, nachmu, nachmu. That's what the Rebbe said. Nachmu, nachmu. That's this week's Torah portion, the Haftorah. It'll be a doubled and a redoubled and a redoubled and a redoubled and a redoubled and a redoubled. Good. Huh? So it's infinite. Like the thing about what the person, he said he wants to, instead of giving me $1 million, I want $1 and just double it for 30 days. You say, okay, and finally, like on the 30th day, you get up to like, 64 million or something. I don't know. You have to make the computation. 64 million says, okay, well, that's pretty good. 64 million. Well, we're not finished. We're doubling. You wanted it to be doubled. Yeah, 30 days. I didn't hear the 30-day part. Let's just, just double it. You know what? Why wait for 30 days? Let's just double and redouble it right now. So here, now we got 64 million. And now we got, 128 million. And now we got the 200 million. Then it just keeps going. Okay, stop. You ever remember the movie? I'm just reminded. I remember when I was a kid, they saw the famous Walt Disney movie, The Sorcerer's Apprentice, right? Just more water and more water. Remember that? Just if you never saw it, it's worth seeing. It's find a free minute. The Sorcerer's Apprentice. It was for the music was from who? From Prokofiev or something, huh? Right? More water, just increasing more and more and more. Right? More good and more good. We just won't be able to take the good. Right? Just too much. Bum, 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 bum. More good and more. That's what it's going to be. More good and more life and more joy and more meaning and more happiness and more blessing. That's what it's hinted at. Like we said before, in Shabbos Nachmu, and this Shabbos is hinted at what's called unlimited, careful, double, the future redemption by means of the Moshiach. And it also, if there's added also another thing in this year, that Shabbos Nachmu comes after the preparation of Erev Shabbos, what's Erev Shabbos? This year, the same thing. It's the same. The calendar was the same back then. This that the Rebbe said was 30 years ago. The calendar comes out the same thing now. What's Erev Shabbos? It is Chamisha Asar B'Av, the 15th day of Av. Now, at the end of the Mishnah is in Tainis. So it says over there that the happiest days of the year in Judaism was when the temple was here, was Yom Kippur and Tu B'Av. And still, actually, they still are the happiest days of the year. Yom Kippur, because all the Jews got forgiven. Tu B'Av, because first of all, it came after Tisha B'Av. And it says that on that day, the moon was full, which the moon is full of every month. But now it's full after the tragedies. The moon is full after the tragedy of Tisha B'Av. And it says that the young ladies would dress nice and they would go and they would into the vineyards, and the young men would come and they would pick young women to meet and to decide if they wanted to marry and etc. It was a happy day. Tu B'Av, happy day. To begin the explanation of Sheikhos the Chamisha officer of what's the connection of the 15th day of Av to the Geula Mitis Shlema, to the future complete redemption. 15th day of Av. And that's going to be tomorrow. Yom Chamisha Asar B'Chodesh, the 15th day of the month. Kaimas Yor B'Shlemusa. The moon is full. So what? The moon is full every month, right? Especially in the Jewish calendar. The middle of every month is the Jewish calendar goes according to the moon. And it's adjusted once every few years so that it goes according to the sun also. The seasons of the year is adjusted, but mainly it goes according to the moon. The first day of the month, there's a sliver of the moon, and the last day of the month, there is no moon. Right? The moon has disappeared. In the middle of the month, the moon is full. Every month is like that. It says the Rebbe, now as Romans, this hints at Shlemos, to Bnei Israel. This is full moon. This hints at the fullness of the Jewish people. Shemonim L'Lavana, that the Jewish people, they count according to the moon. And it says that the Jewish people are going to be renewed like the moon. So the moon and the sun used to be equal. The Jewish people will be renewed. The Geula Amitit Shlem, and the future redemption by means of the Moshiach, Dvar Malchut Moshiach, David, Sheshayach L'Lavana, that's relevant to the moon, which is Malchut. Chamisha Asar B'Chodesh Menachem Av, the 15th day of the month of Av. The Menachem means to be comforted. Before Av was the worst month of the year, right? But we have the comfort which comes beforehand. Shlemut HaChodesh, this is the completion, wholesomeness of the month. Shenikra al Shemo Shel Mashiach, that the month was called in the name of the Mashiach. Where do we see Mashiach over here? It says in the Talmud that the name of the Mashiach is Menachem. It says other names also, but it says Menachem Shemo. But Leidaso, and it says that the birth of the Mashiach, it says, was the day that the temple was destroyed. And the person's birthday, that's when it says his mazel gover, that his spiritual luck, or whatever, spiritual powers are shining on a birthday. And this is the birthday, the month that the Mashiach was born. So therefore, on Tisha B'Av, Mashiach, it says, was born. That's what it says in the Gemara. When the moon is full on the 15th day of the month, then we know for sure that the Mashiach was already born. Like it says, what was the whole thing of the Mashiach being born? It says the temple was destroyed in the month of Aryeh, in the month of Leo, which is the month of Av. It says in order that would come Mashiach, that's also called Aryeh, and he'll rebuild it. And especially when this Friday is the day that the first man was created, right? He was created on Friday, in order that he could go into the world that's already prepared. Sharom, this hints at the 6,000th year that everything was prepared for the meal. What type of a meal? It says there's going to be a meal between this big fish, Leviathan, and Shurabor, and this big ox. On the day that's called Shabbos and Menucha Chayalamim, that there'll be a day where we'll be rested from all the bad things. Right? It'll be a dynamic day. Shabbos is a dynamic day as far as spiritual goes, but as far as physical goes, we don't have to worry about the physical. Same thing, Mashiach comes, it'll be dynamic spiritually, but physically we won't have to worry about the physical world. Spiritually will be this meal, which is from the Leviathan, the what is it, the big whale and the big ox. We talked about this before on the spiritual levels. Anyway, suffice it to say, this is going to be amazing spiritual levels, which are going to satisfy us. It's going to be a physical meal. Yishlomar, we can say that in these matters that we're talking about the 15th day of the month, of every month, and the 15th day of the month of Av, and the fact that it came out on the day that man was created, Friday, 6th day. This hints at the unlimitedness that's going to be in the future redemption that will be expressed in the true completion, wholesomeness of everything that there is in the world together. First of all, we have the moon is going to be whole, full moon. Excuse me. That the completion of the moon is by means of this, that it receives from the or light of the sun. The complete ultimate reception from the sun joins these two things together, the sun and the moon in the future. Like it says, the light of the moon is going to be like the light of the sun. Okay, this of course is only physical, but spiritual, this shows that the light coming from the world will be equal to the light that comes from God. God will be revealed in the physical world, like it was in the Holy Temple. This is the Holy Temple made light in the whole world. On the 15th day of this month of Av, that the birth of the Moshiach was the 1 second immediately after the destruction of the temple, like it says in the words of the rabbis, Kishagat Parato, that when the mood, this cow of some worker that was, right, a rabbi passed by and he saw this, I think, Gentile was plowing his land and his cow gave this unusual mooing sound. And he said, oh, that's a sign that the temple has been destroyed. Just as he was about to be sad, and the cow mooed the same way a second time. When the second time he said, oh, what's that? Melech Moshiach Go'olam Shel Yisrael. This is the birth of the Savior of the Jewish people. Not only that, this is the second temple, of course. And even after one minute. Oh, that's when the Mashiach was born. And Tisha B'Av was born, but even more, even after the Mashiach becomes big, grown up, Kol Miyuchad, especially his being grown up spiritually, like it says about King Saul, that from his shoulders and above, he was higher than everybody else. Like all the laws of a king, Mashiach is going to be a king. How much more so regarding the King Mashiach? He's going to be a king and he's going to be a teacher. That's what it says. The Mashiach is going to also come from Moses. He'll be a teacher. Even though the main thing of Mashiach was from the tribe of Judah, that's his aspect of being a king, which is above understanding. And being a teacher means that he's going to teach everyone, understandable. From this is drawn Chorban v'Galus Meshech Zman. There's drawn down this destruction and the exile for a long time, right from the time that he was born until now, until Meshech Zman Hachi Aroch, the longest possible time. Ridiculous. Shakavan, how long can he grow? Mashiach, 2,000 years. Shakavana bazeh hi shetiyah shleimus ha'geula. There'll be a complete redemption. Mitzad elyon, mitzad tachton, mitzad shneim yachad. Mashiach was born when the temple was destroyed. When was the temple destroyed? Almost 2,000 years ago. That's when he was born. Since then, he's been growing. He's been growing. How old is your child? 1,800 years old. What? That's very old. It's gonna another couple hundred years. I think he's ready to get married to the Jew. What do you mean with that? That's ridiculous. Mashiach is almost 2,000 years old. How is he? Since we're talking about, first of all, spiritually, and Mashiach can appear in different people, but nevertheless, how it's going to be Mashiach. Every generation has to have their Mashiach. But the point the Rebbe wants to say, it's not going to be a new thing. It already is waiting for us. It's already here. Just expect it to be revealed. In the call Muchan, like it says, everything is prepared for the meal. Sheshlemot Asuda, this is the completion of the meal. That means the preparation, Yom Shishi, but called Prati and Yanim is because of the Shlemus the Bli Gavul. I remember I used to be in the yeshiva. I used to teach in yeshiva. So there used to be lunchtime. Oh, lunchtime. So some of the boys that were in our yeshiva, the Americans, they complained that the Israelis, there was 150 boys in the yeshiva, and we had like 20 boys. And our guys complained that at lunchtime, the doors were locked. The doors were locked. They prepared the tables, everything. And as soon as they opened up the doors, as everyone would run in, they would push each other around, and it was just terrible. Like they were, like who knows, like that was the first time they ever ate in a month. So I said, okay, I'm going to check this out. I'm going to see who it is, who's doing the pushing, who's doing the running, and I'm going to really let them have it. I'll let them have it afterwards. I'll tell the other teachers, and we'll make a gathering of everybody together. So sure enough, everybody was waiting by the door. They were all, the tables were all set, waiting by the door. And I went around to the other side through the kitchen. I stood in the lunchroom to see who would come in the doors. Sure enough, they opened the doors, and everyone came running in like animals. Who were the first ones? The American guys. They were the ones that were making all the trouble. So I said, you guys are the worst. They said, no, we did it because usually they push us, and it just happens the other way. I'm not trying to make, the point I'm trying to make is the meal is all ready. It's all ready. The tables are all set. Everything is there. We're all hungry. We've been waiting 2,000 years for this meal. As soon as they open the doors, pooh, we should be rushing in. And that's what the Rebbe is trying to tell us. The meal is all ready. We've been waiting 2,000 years for this meal. And the meal is not just going to satisfy us temporarily until the next meal. It's going to be infinitely good. And God is going to open up the doors. So, okay, don't push anybody else out of the way. We're not talking about that. What we are talking about is we should be ready. We should be waiting. It should be a thing that we're really anticipating. This is also hinted at by the fact that God, when he created the world, he finished the world. He said everything that God saw, he said it was tov, it was good, and then he said it was tov ma'od, very good. So we have all this together. Tu B'Av is on Friday. It's preparing us for the Shabbat of Nachamu, which Nachamu is showing on doubled and redoubled good and blessing. And therefore, that's the whole idea of what Moshiach is going to bring. Well, it's all ready. The Rebbe is just trying to give us a little bit of the smell, the aroma of this meal that's waiting for us behind this closed door. When God is going to open up the door, I don't know. We'll see. If we're going to add on that this whole idea of B'li Gavul, of being unlimited, is stressed also in the service of man, beginning on the 15th day of Av. The Mikan Ve'elef Moshe Yosef, you add on. From the 15th day of Av, the nights become longer. Usually nighttime is the best time for learning Torah. To learn Torah, Yosef Chaim Al Chayav. It used to be a long time ago that there weren't electric lights. And people used to work in the daytime, especially the streets were not illuminated, right? When did they start illuminating the streets? I don't know, 100, 150 years ago, not that long ago, right? I don't even know if 200 years ago they even had, gas lights in the streets. Could be. I'm not a history major. But before 200 years, for sure not. Now, the world has been going on, according to Judaism, for 5,000, according to what is science, it's been going on for 20 billion years or whatever. They've been without electricity. The streets have been dark for 20 billion years, right? So what did people used to do? They would work in the daytime. The people would be going on the streets in the daytime. What would they do in the night? They would sit at home. Everything was they'd have with the candles at home. Couldn't light up the streets. So the daytime was the time that people worked. The nighttime, people sat home and they learned. They learned the Torah, right? They had lights in their house. They would learn the Torah. That was the perfect time. People couldn't come to the business anyway. So since then on, the nighttime is the perfect time for learning Torah, but which the fact is in general it is, because the nighttime things are quieter and etc. Like it says in the Torah, but Parshas Shavua, your infiniteness, that has to be attached to the infiniteness of God. This is the preparation of receiving and adding, in the Torah, in a true way, in a complete way, in a way which is unlimited. Torah chadasha mitetetze, like it says, a new Torah is going to come from me. And by means of this, there was made a completion in Yosef Chaim Al Chayav, that we add life on life in a way which is above any limitation. Eternal life, like it was supposed to be if Adam wouldn't have eaten from the tree, we would have lived forever. So that's going to be again just an innuendo to put on the Jewish people. What's this thing of Tisha B'Av? Tisha B'Av was when the temple was destroyed, but even more, Tisha B'Av was the day that the Jewish people refused to go into the land of Israel. They refused to go in. That was the day the spies came back. Remember the story? And the spies and the Jewish people said, Moses said, okay, everyone, are you excited? Hello, are you excited? Right? Hello, people, are you excited? We're going to the land of Israel. Right? Let's go. Let's get into the land of Israel. We're all going in. And everybody said, Moses, you know what? We're not going in. Moses said, what? We're not going in. We're not going. We're not going into the land of Israel. We don't want to. It's here in the desert. It's perfect, and God is providing everything. God is providing. We're not being provided by nature. We're going to go into the land of Israel. We're going to get confused. Moses said, what are you talking about? The whole purpose of leaving Egypt, getting the Torah, is to go into Israel. Okay, could be. We'll go in, but not now. Later on. So Moses, I don't believe it. You don't want to go into the land of Israel. He says, no, we don't want to go in. You got the point, Moses. We're not going in. So God got all angry, and Moses got all angry. What type of people are you? I don't understand all this work I did just to go in the land of Israel. We're not going in. That's it, Moses. We're not going in. You can yell, you can do whatever you want to. So Moses said, okay, you know what? You're not going to go in. That's what you want? So you won't go in. You wander around in the desert until everyone that's more than 20 years old dies. 40 years. You'll die at 60 years old. When did everybody die? So it says everyone who thought that maybe they were 60 years old, because they didn't exactly keep track, they would go out into the desert and they would dig graves. And they would lay in the graves and they wouldn't get up. They would all die on Tisha B'Av. Every year, thousands, who knows how many, would die Tisha B'Av. That was the death day. It went 40 years. Everybody died. It was 38 years, I guess, because there were 2 years before that. Every year they went and did the same thing. The last year they went out, so they dug the graves. Everyone who thought they might be 60 years old, or that was sure they were 60 years old, they would dig graves, they would lay down in the graves, and they woke up the next morning. Hey, I'm hungry, right? Their wives would be there, whatever, the family. I'm hungry, one of it. And well, why didn't you die? Well, maybe we made a mistake on the date. Maybe in this day, the date, we made a mistake, right? I mean, so let's try. I'll stay another night. No, I don't want to die at home. So finally, when it came to be the 15th day of the month and the moon was full, they realized, listen, 6-day mistake you don't make. You make a mistake 1 day, 2 days, maybe it's cloudy, maybe this, right? But 6-day mistake, we don't. 2 B'Av, suddenly they realized, that's it, we're not dying anymore. That's it, nobody's going to die. The 15th day of Av was happy because it revealed that Tisha B'Av that was 6 days earlier, that was the end. That's it. It was a decree of life for everybody. So that's another reason for the 15th day of Av being happy. Okay. Hadgasher Yatira, especially now, on this Shabbos, Nachamu, that comes after the 15th day of Av in the year Tafshin Nun Aleph, 1991. Dober, we spoke several times about this in the last period. We talked about that all the signs we have that this is the year the Mashiach is supposed to be here. This is supposed to be the year that Mashiach comes. Melech Mashiach will be revealed. In addition to the fact that this Shabbat after midday, afternoon, that begins already, we're already coming into Shabbat, right? Erev Shabbat, Friday, we're already coming into Shabbat. Like is hinted at by the first letters, which is Israel. The first letters of this year, Tav Shin Hey Aleph, Tav Shin Nun Aleph. Hey means 5,000. Tav, it will be the year of miracles. Erenu, I will show miracles. And especially in the course of this year, we saw many, many miracles. Right? This was after the Gulf War and the Iron Curtain fell, and even more. That each and every one of these miracles was a miracle, even in regard to the previous miracles. A miracle above a miracle. right? Sometimes you get used to miracles. For instance, a person that's terribly sick, he's dying, was run over by a tractor, by a truck. He was totally squashed, totally this. And he went the next day, he comes alive. He's back to life. This is a big miracle, right? One day after that, oh, he's so happy. I thought you were crushed by the thing. Yeah. 2 days, a week after that, a month after that, it's not such a big miracle anymore. A year after that, oh yeah, I remember this is the anniversary of this. He doesn't feel the same fresh miracle as he did before, right? It says, but what happens? Let's say that an atom bomb destroys the whole entire city and everybody is just totally liquidated. And the next day, all of a sudden, everybody comes back. Oh, this is a bigger miracle than the first miracle. There's no doubt about it, right? So that's a bigger miracle. But all these miracles that I'm talking about, there was something bad, terrible, and it went away. What about miracles that now things are good and things become miraculously better? We don't even know what that is. We don't know what it means. But the fact of the matter is that's the way things are going to be. It's going to be miracles good on top of good and infinitely better. Things can't get any better. When there's a bigger miracle, realize, well, this is even better, including, and this especially relates to, are we going to get up to this? No, okay, we're not going to. Okay. Especially the miracle that's happening now in these days, that all of the shluchim are all coming over in Russia. They made what was called the Kenes Shluchim, a congress of the emissaries of the Rebbe in Russia. They came from many, many places, also in other places in the world. And where do they make this? In the city of Lubavitch. Now, Russia, this was unheard of. In Russia, you did not advertise religion in Russia. And now, you couldn't even get out of Russia. They would put you in prison. And now people are going in and out free, right? The Iron Curtain fell to the point where Chabad is growing in Russia, Kolel, including also in order to, they're going in Russia and they're also praying at the graves of the previous Rebbes that are buried there. And also on the grave of the Rebbe's father. Rebbe's father was also a very holy person. He was a rabbi, a head rabbi of a huge area of Russia in the worst times of communism. And he stood against the communists. Amazing stories. And he spread out Judaism over there in secretive ways that you just can't believe. And he succeeded. And finally, they had enough of him and they put him into Siberia, wherever it was. And they released him. He became tremendously sick over there. And he died a very painful, terrible death outside of, he was released from prison. I guess the reason they released him was because they didn't want to take care of him. Anyway, the day that he passed away is the 20th day of Av. And this is, in addition to this, they are gathering in the main city of the country, Moscow. And they're all making a meeting together and discussing one another ideas about how to spread out Judaism in Russia with the agreement of I don't know if you're ever in Russia, in Moscow, across from the KGB buildings is the huge synagogue of Rabbi Lazar over there. He's the chief rabbi of a huge Chabad synagogue over there. Huge, it's like 5 stories high, something like that. And it's beautiful, modern. To get good, make good decisions, resolutions, and to add on spreading out Judaism and spreading out the Hasidut, etc., in all the countries of the world. May it be God's will that this will be a successful Congress, successful, meeting of all the Chabad people in a way that will add double and redoubled and redoubled and redoubled, waking up Judaism everywhere. And that there'll be miracles that this country, the country of Russia, that fought against the previous Rebbe, that fought, they're just releasing now, they maybe 10 years, releasing the dossier, the papers of all of the Chabad Hasidim that they killed, that died, that nobody knew where they were. And they're releasing them. Things that, the Torah and Mayanot, Marechat umechaberet et talmidov, that a city that honors Torah learning will certainly be blessed, and this will encourage the spreading out of Torah and Judaism outward. This is a big miracle. These miracles, they arouse and they stress, but takef, that immediately, roim but hafla, we can see the biggest miracle of all, namely Geula mitit v'shlema, a complete and total redemption, that it says, in the days of your going out of Egypt, I will show you miracles. There'll be even miracles even greater than the ones of going out of Egypt. And especially regarding this year itself. And this year itself, the miracle of the year of Nun Aleph, I will show you miracles. Show you miracles. Now, especially, we're getting close to the end of the year. That we're already found in the end. We're found in what's called the 10th month of the year. If we count from Tishrei, then this is the 10th month of the year. Mechodesh Tishrei. And this is the 11th month of the year. Next month is the month of Elul. That's the last month of the year. That's attached to Echad Asar Yom Bechorev, Bechina Shalomayla, number 11. And this month is showing on something that's higher than any sort of limitation. Okay, let us stop here. Tomorrow, God willing, we'll either learn this or there's another beautiful sikha that we have. We'll learn tomorrow. Today, there will be a class at 11 o'clock, God willing. 1 second, we have a chat over here. One minute. I don't know what this is relating to. It's 5782 or 5783. Okay, this Tishrei will be 5783. That's what I said. I don't know what the commentary is on, but you're right. I don't know. Okay. Now let's do the Yom Yom. The 14th day of Menachem Av, that's today, is 50 years since my father, this is the previous Rebbe speaking, told me to begin writing down the stories that he told me. Writing down. When the Tzemach Tzedek, the third Rebbe of Chabad, when he began writing his commentaries on the Talmud and Chassidut, the first Rebbe, his grandfather, said to him, it says, "V'kaneh lecha chaver." You should purchase for yourself a friend. Right? It's from Pirkei Avot, chapter of the Fathers. Aseh lecha rav, kaneh lecha chaver. What does it mean? That you should make big effort that you should have a good friend. Big effort, even if it means you have to spend money to go to visit him, to whatever, to help him. So that's the simple meaning. But there's also kaneh, means to buy, but kaneh also means a pen. Kaneh is a reed. Kaneh lecha chaver. You should say, kaneh lecha chaver, the quill shall be your friend. Kaneh. My father once quoted the Alter Rebbe and said, Kaneh, what does it mean? If you have no one to learn with, then you have a pen. Write it down, write things down. And he said, this refers to the quill, also to the quill of your heart, the pen of the heart. Whatever you learn should be taken to heart, should experience it also emotionally. All right, my friends, God willing, we'll meet together at 3 o'clock. Have a good day with Moshiach. Now, we'll learn today, by the way, at 3 o'clock, we'll learn the Haftorah from Isaiah chapter 40. You can have a look. Nachamo Ami.